I want to thank Troy for joining us this evening. Troy is a licensed clinical social worker. He serves as the Vice President of Behavioral Health Integration for Refresh Mental Health, the largest provider of behavioral services nationally, to expand his model of behavioral health integration services across the country. He also serves as the Senior Vice President and Chief Operation Officer of Access Services in Fort Washington. He happens to be married to one of our math teachers and was a part of Springfield Psychological, which is a local organization that we use as a district a lot for counseling. So we're very happy to have him. Just so you know, this is his third presentation for us for our evening series. The first was Compassion Fatigue for Educators. The second, Supporting Self-Care and Wellness in Families and Students During COVID-19. And tonight, he's going to present on successfully transitioning students back to in-person learning. Troy, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate it. And it's great to be here with everyone again. So without further ado, I'm actually going to go dark because I do not like to look at myself on the camera. And I'm going to just focus heavily on sharing this information to you to support providing key strategies to students to promote wellness in the transition back to school. So let me just darken my camera and we'll go from here. So 2020 has been complicated.
Schools like this. That's the way it is. 2020's like this. I guess it is what it is. Chill out, what you yelling for? This has never been done before. We're all stuck in a Zoom academy. COVID-19. I like things the way they were. We dropped you off at the curb, but now you're gonna be with us all day. Can't get away. Kids sitting here, the teacher is there, connection is bad. Now you can't relax. You text other moms, you're hovering constantly. Tell me why the heck does school have to be so complicated? I see that you have 10 different things for every Zoom class they created. Well, life's like this, you're all alone in your room, Wi-Fi's on and you're free. You say, gee, can I get some help, please? Honestly, teachers ought to be better compensated. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Linda, you're frozen.
So calm, checks in unannounced. He's dressed like a total slouch. He's now sprawling out onto his bed with a loaf of bread. The crumbs, they are everywhere. He's got a crazy vacant stare. His eyes are 7 inches from the screen. ADHD, he's spacing out. You'll never find out. You'll be in a daze for 200 days. You try to be cool, but you pray for a new vaccine. Tell me, why the heck does school have to be so complicated? I see that doing practice on a laptop is getting you so frustrated. And I know that it's not the scene you're complaining, just believe what we read, what we see when the year is over. Honestly, I'm proud of you for trying even though you hate it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for watching.
So COVID-19 has created a lot of change for everyone. In the last year, we've been living in a pandemic state. It's dramatically shifted the way that we think, we feel, we behave, and a kind of approach our daily lives. Families and kids have had to adjust to attending school and also working both virtually at home and also within a hybrid model. Video chatting with relatives and friends, participating in limited to no activities, wearing masks, social distancing, lots of hand washing has now become normal, but it's not normal. COVID-19 has significantly impacted everyone in a variety of ways over the past year. So now we are living in what is known as the pandemic normal state. I want to take a moment and look at the following video, share it with you to hear from teenagers regarding how COVID-19 has really impacted them over the last year.
In my online history class, my mom came into my room in a towel asking if I was still in class, when indeed my history class could see her. Then she goes, "Oh, whoops," and runs out of the room. My whole class laughed very hard.
To address the obvious, yes, currently I am a cat. I was missing my friends in social isolation. I just like, I miss walking in the halls with them and stuff and just talking. And so I was like, who hates people more than cats? No one. So that's what I'll become. I don't think I'm doing like well without people. I'm a 15-year-old, just like a cat. Like, there's a breakdown coming.
Right now, homeschooling isn't bad. We've been doing our classes through video chat.
Although you would expect it to be less stressful because you have more time to do homework, somehow I feel like teachers have been compensating by giving us more work.
For me, homeschooling has been really difficult. I've had a really hard time focusing. I've been handling assignments late. I've been texting my friends during class. It's really quite awful.
Now there have been complaints about too much screen time at my school, so they're cutting class time down and they're giving out more homework, which isn't great.
I don't think my eyes are ready for 6 hours of screen time, like for school and then after school doing homework on the screen. I just don't think it's really healthy.
I've been going on my phone 10 hours a day on average.
10.5 hours on my phone a day, it's really bad.
Watching movies, texting people.
Playing video games.
Instagram, messages, and TikTok.
The funniest thing my mom did was she downloaded TikTok and has been doing dances. I don't even have TikTok.
The funniest thing that my parents have done during quarantine is spend hours trying to teach my grandma how to pick up a FaceTime call so we can talk to her, because she always tries to pick up her landline and that never really works out.
I'm so unproductive. I have all this time on my hands that I'm just not using for anything.
I just feel so lonely all the time. Like, I talk to my friends, but as soon as I'm done talking to them, I'm like, oh my God, where did everyone go?
I've been really low energy. I've been really depressed. It's fun.
If I could go outside right now, I would probably go play basketball. And it's just my way to clear my mind and be happy.
I do a lot of rollerblading. I play tennis with my parents.
I have a Zoom meeting with my Taekwondo instructor.
Pilates with my mom.
I'm not worried about coronavirus for myself, like getting it, because I believe that I'd probably be fine.
My biggest fear is, being a carrier for coronavirus and spreading it to my family and loved ones who are immunocompromised.
What scares me most right now is the pace it's picking up throughout the world.
I feel like every day it kind of hits a little closer to home.
What scares me the most is my grandparents getting it.
My grandma loves to come over. She loves to garden in our yard and help out wherever she can. But like, I'm so worried for her.
Favorite things about quarantine? Everybody's here. I have a lot of free time. My least favorite things about quarantine: everybody's always here. I have too much free time.
Not having to actually go to school.
I'm so happy I don't have to get up as early anymore.
Quarantine has also given me much more time to watch Netflix.
We have a lot more meals together, which is really nice.
Staying inside can get kind of sad.
Feeling trapped and not getting fresh air.
I really like to go outside and play a lot of sports with my friends, and obviously we can't do that, and all the organized sports that I'm in have been canceled. I tried to go to the park with one of my friends, and my mom came and yelled, 10 feet, stay 10 feet away, before making me come home because we were only 8 feet away.
One of the hardest parts about being in quarantine is just not being able to go outside and play basketball. Another one in the house is sharing a room with my sister. It's very, very tough.
And the only people you can talk to are your family. It gets really bad really quickly.
I feel cramped out. I don't really like this that much. If I could do one thing on the outside right now, I would go get Chipotle.
I'm really starting to miss seeing everyone.
If I could do one thing on the outside right now, it would definitely be see my friends.
What scares you the most right now? the prospect that we'll be doing this for another 18 months.
I'm scared that things won't go back to normal.
If we're inside all summer in quarantine, I might go stir crazy if I haven't already.
Right now, I feel kind of stressed out, but it is really nice to know that we're all going through this together.
I just really want quarantine to end because this freaking pandemic is killing me.
COVID-19 has impacted each one of us. School closures and enforced social distancing have really cut off many teens from major means of psychological support, which then places them at higher risk of developing anxiety and depression. I just found out the other day that the World Health Organization, commonly known as WHO, has now stated that anxiety is the #1 physical health, mental health issue in the world. For years and years and years, depression was always leading the pack. Now anxiety has overtaken that. The stress of everyone navigating new ways of learning via online classes, hybrid schedules, adapted learning, limited social interactions, it's all taken a toll. So many families and students have had to adjust to managing working and learning in a new environment, basically from home. We're all experiencing the same storm brought on by COVID-19, but each of us are in very different boats within this storm. So personally, I've been spending a lot of my time supporting students, families, and school staff by providing suggestions to help navigate these stressful times and to support successful return of students to in-person learning. Many schools are now transitioning back to degrees of in-person learning. Some schools are back full-time. Some schools, private schools, have never left in-person learning. They've been doing in-person learning throughout the entire pandemic. Other schools are opening slowly and kind of gauging the schedule accordingly, making sure that safety for students and for staff are at the utmost level of priority. So tonight I want to offer some suggestions to support students and parents in managing their stress and anxiety as they continue to adjust to in-person learning. Self-care is critical to successfully navigating any kind of challenge or any kind of trauma. And certainly the last year of COVID-19 has been nothing short of trauma for most of us. So let's check in and see how some teens actually view self-care.
It's like taking care of yourself. It's really about like having what you need to be successful and to like live your day with life. Being in a state where you can be reliable on yourself.
How you treat yourself, and how you present yourself.
Well-being is basically being in the right state of mind, in a happy position in life, and being able to be comfortable with yourself.
To be happy and just to be satisfied with life.
It's a 6.5, 8. There's some times where I'm not fully sure of myself and sure of the surroundings.
I'd say 8, because you can always improve. Like, no one's gonna be perfect.
Around a 3, because right now it's kind of a hard time for me.
A 6. I mean, things could be so much better, yet things could be so much worse. So I think I'm pretty much in the middle.
6.5. I'm not super happy. I'm also not like super sad.
Very important to take care of yourself because you affect surroundings around you. And if as long as you're in a positive mind state, then everything around you should go well. You're feeling bad because you're not taking care of yourself.
If you don't take care of yourself, like who's gonna?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Being able to take care of yourself basically ensures that you are not only happy, but also have a good mental mind.
I think sometimes it's more important than others.
If you don't take care of yourself, you don't feel as good. Regular tasks are just usually harder. And I think that can really affect you.
A lot of people, they just focus on a lot of like what other people think and other people's well-beings, but it's really, and they forget to take care of themselves. But when you take care of yourself, it's like, oh, it's like someone cares about me, but it's you, and it's good. It's a good feeling.
Kinda.
a lot of times I'm not good at recognizing it, but I feel like there are times where I can.
Yes, typically when you're really stressed or having a lot of hard time going through a lot of things, if there's a lot of things on your plate, it's important to take a step back and take care of yourself and kind of put yourself in the right mindset, because if you go into things not prepared or not in a good mindset, it's kind of hard for you to deal with them later on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're especially not doing well in something that you do want to do well in, then that's where I think that really plays a factor.
Not all the time.
I personally go to the gym because I like to improve my body and my fitness to make me feel better about myself.
Taking baths and like listening to music, and then just like naps are pretty good. By making sure I eat healthy enough, sleeping, having a clear mind on what priorities are. Goals.
Typically, some alone time would be nice. It's just kind of relaxing, being able to go places where you're not really, surrounded by just pressure. Basically, peace and quiet, nice as well.
I don't know. I prefer being like at home, like kind of alone,
I would say rather than focusing on academics, I would just I'd rather do things that I like doing, something just to really calm down.
It's just like a trial and error kind of thing. Like, I've tried a lot of different things, just like, and if they don't help me, then I'm not going to do them. But if they do, then let's just keep doing it.
Self-care, I'm treating me right.
So goals for tonight. Tonight, we're going to take some time to look at ways to help reduce stress and support student success as the return to school is upon us. We're going to discuss ways to manage what's in your control, to navigate difficult feelings, to take in-person learning day to day, to support managing stress and supporting well-being, both with parents and with kids, to focus a little bit on building resilience and leaning into gratitude, reconnecting with teachers, friends, and school staff and what that experience has been like and will continue to be like, and provide some basic coping strategies A through Z to reduce anxiety and promote wellness. So there are things that we can control in our life, and then there's things that are beyond our control in the midst of COVID. Situations like the pandemic highlight a lot of things that are outside of our control. The next slide shows a visual that can help support us in understanding and looking and trying to navigate the things that are more in our control, and to focus predominantly on things that we have control over. So as we look at what is in our control, we're going to look a little bit at some key areas. Let's look at outside of our control first. So the things that are sort of beyond our control or outside of our control. I can't always control other people's behaviors, attitudes, reactions to things. I can't control other people's feelings, their emotional state. Decisions that get made by adults that are sort of imposed on me, things that I have to go along with. We certainly can't control the weather. It's beautiful outside tonight, or other people's actions. So leaning into the things that we can control tends to be more stable in our emotional, physical, and mental health, psychological state. So what I can control is my words, my actions, my attitude, how I approach something, how I embrace something, how I re-engage with something. I can control my behaviors, my responses and my choices, my decisions, staying safe, making sure that I'm following the rules and guidance that's been laid out as I return back to school, and also keeping healthy. So I want to play a real brief video from teenagers on how they're using and focusing more on what is in their control right now to address some of the angst and stress with dealing with the pandemic.
Hi, I'm Samina, and thank you for your interest in how we teens are feeling during this time. We are from Needham High School in Needham, Massachusetts, and we are Earn Your Peace.
Hi, I'm Adi. This time has brought concern, of course, challenges, and many new opportunities. I think it's good to capture all the sides of this time, the good, the bad, and the in-between.
Hi, I'm Talia.
I think it's really important for adults to be able to hear and understand what teens are feeling.
Hi, I'm Kai, and I want kids like us to be able to get the help that they need.
Hi, I'm Josh, and I want our communities to be able to stay strong, especially when it's so hard for us to keep up our physical bonds.
Hi, I'm Dan. I hope that we can answer adults' questions about what's going on in teen sense.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and I want to help strengthen the connection between teens and adults.
Hi, my name is James. As a football player who's supposed to be strong, even emotionally, I wanted to break the facade and share the feelings behind the mask.
Hi, I'm Cindy, and together we all wanted to delve into what we've been experiencing during this pandemic.
The biggest challenge for me during this time is finding the motivation to keep my sleep schedule and my work schedule consistent.
The biggest challenge for me during this time has been reaching out to people and staying connected. I always fear that that's going to be the last interaction I have with them.
There's so many things that I've wanted to do, and now I don't have an excuse not to do them.
It's challenging to focus on my schoolwork because working in my room is really distracting.
When we had school, I had a strict schedule that I stuck to every single day. Now, I don't even have a schedule at all. Because of this, I started to lose motivation to do even just little things like homework.
I'm usually really busy and I do a lot of things to have fun and keep myself motivated, and I'm really sad and disappointed to miss them.
I miss being able to go and visit my baby cousins on holidays. And just the thought of never being able to do any of that ever again is scary.
I've been exploring a lot more music recently, being able to focus on listening to new songs rather than having to have it as my background noise. Music gives me an escape from what's around me.
During this time, I take care of myself by trying to get a little bit of exercise and checking in on the people who are important to me every day.
During this time, I've been taking care of myself by listening to my inner thoughts and feelings, and that's how I decide whether I want to do something or not.
I have been taking care of myself by bullet journaling. This is not only really fun and relaxing, but it also helps me keep track of all the things that I need to get done.
I have learned that I'm a lot more introverted than I thought I was, and I'm able to do a lot more things independently than before.
I have better days when I start the interactions with other people in my family. I like to have that head start. It makes me feel better.
I used to measure myself by how much I did in a day. I want to do something that makes me feel better.
I found comfort in the realization that no matter how permanent a negative emotion may feel, it isn't.
Shifting my thinking to remind myself to change my expectations has been really helpful.
A while ago, I gave up on trying to learn the ukulele, but now I'm playing chords that I didn't even know I could play.
As an adult, even if you don't have an everyday relationship with a teen, just by checking in can be very helpful.
We don't need them to fix anything. We just need them to be there to listen.
I really appreciate all the ways my teachers have been accommodating to a new environment.
Parents can help by giving their kids a hug from time to time, since hugs are harder to come by these days.
Adults can be supportive by just trying to be empathetic. It's a hard time for us students, and adjusting to a new way of learning is hard.
My biggest worry for what's next is that I will lose my social skills. I'm currently a really social person, but I fear that I will lose that spark.
I worry that I won't be able to go to college on time, or if I do, it'll be nothing like it should be.
One thing that worries me is that I'm going to come out of this missing a lot of necessary things that I need to be an adult.
I'm worried about when this will all be over and what that will look like. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for seeing each of us as individuals
with our own backgrounds and identities,
and our challenges and strengths.
Thank you for reaching out to us.
Thank you for all that you do.
If you were wondering, Own Your Peace is an initiative at Needham High that for 14 years has tried to create a culture of caring, compassion, and outreach. We encourage each member of the community to reach out on behalf of themselves and others, to practice self-care, and to take community responsibility.
Be safe,
Be well,
own your peace.
So after 1 year of a virtual hybrid learning model, resuming in-person learning is potentially challenging for many students. We know that parents across the country, many of whom relied on schools to care for their children while they worked, became very frustrated and angry about the remote instruction that has occurred. It clearly has gone on much longer than any of us anticipated. Even as grocery store clerks, city bus drivers, and other essential workers have been braving the risks of the front line, as well as doctors and nurses and lawmakers. Schools has also been very much on the front line, and I have to say have been doing an absolute outstanding job trying to navigate this lived experience. President Biden pledged recently to open up most schools within his first 100 days of office, and also looking at more funding in cities and states to adopt safety strategies and safety steps to do so. And nearly 1 year into this pandemic, fewer than half of the students are attending schools that are teaching in person every day. And the question of how and when to get kids back in the school classrooms have been, kind of on the buzz and on the cutting edge for months now. So the Center for Disease Control and Prevention concluded more recently that schools can reopen safely if their communities have lower levels of the virus and that they adhere to strictly, measures of safety requiring everyone to stay, now 3 to 6 feet apart, 3 feet, sort of in classroom settings, 6 feet apart when they're, moving around, and continue to wear masks. So we're now in this reopening phase, returning phase, and Pimdaco has been back in school now for quite a bit, and now we're seeing our kids adjust to this return back to school. So many schools remain virtual in a year of the pandemic. Here's a good example of what life was like, virtual existence in September of 2020. And then what it was like January of 2021, where you still had about 38% of schools in a virtual or a hybrid model, with lower percentages of schools, attending in person. So, attitudes about reopening schools in any community can obviously vary, and it can create a lot of mixed feelings. Parents who've been essential workers and can't afford childcare have been really wanting schools to reopen as soon as possible. Parents who have, potential higher earning capacity have hired tutors, to work privately with their kids. Some parents have shifted, schools for their kids. I know for my cousin and his wife decided to do a virtual school, entire virtual school setting through their public school system. And families of color and families who are struggling more around school closings have been also suffering. So teacher and school professionals' attitude also can vary as far as the reopening of school. There can be mixed feelings professionally about this as well, and has been across school districts. Teachers and parents generally agree that students have been struggling and need to return to the classroom setting. But a lot of uncertainty continues to remain. So how do we navigate all of this, feelings and emotions as we want to support our kids in embracing and returning to school and feeling good about getting back into the school setting? So here's some basic tips that I want to provide to you tonight for navigating student success and helping your kids adjust as they return and have returned back to in-person learning. I think number one, it's important that we validate, support, and listen to students. The recent events will likely have had a substantial impact on our kids' mental and emotional health. They've experienced a lot of emotions in regard to the announcement of new changes, including, but not limited to, a lot of anxiety, disappointment, frustration, and anger. Parents, it's important to listen to your kids' concerns, even if the emotions are extreme, and express understanding and empathy. let your kids know that you are hearing them and you're understanding, and you're also living this challenge with them. Let them know that you appreciate their perspective and that you want to keep an open dialogue to have constructive problem solving. This hit me at a personal level. Back a few months ago, one of my daughters, who I believed to be doing phenomenally well because she doesn't really share her emotions that openly. She seems to be a pretty resilient and tough young lady. One night I went in to say goodnight to her as she was getting ready for bed, and I found her crying in her room, and she was sobbing in tears, and openly started to share, I can't take this anymore. This has just been, the worst year of my life, and I worry about you getting sick, and I worry about mom getting sick, and I worry about, my grandparents getting sick, and I worry about what if I get sick? What if you die? And it just created this unleashing of emotion. This floodgate opened up that led to a pretty late night into the early morning conversation where I'm trying to hold space and support my daughter, and just months and months of stuff of her trying to continue to just push through this. Just the dam broke and everything flooded out. And it served as a really strong reminder of me that as well as we think we know our kids, and as well as they want to kind of not make us worry about them, that still waters run deep. And the impact, even though it may not be observable, our kids might not be doing as well as we believe they are, and it's important to check in. So be honest and encouraging with the return to school rather than just simply reassuring. I'm not saying not to reassure, but you really want to be more focused on honest and encouraging. Anxious kids will likely need some initial reassurance from parents that it's okay, or trusted adults and teachers that returning to school is fine. Avoid using what I call blanket reassurance statements. Avoid saying things like everything will be fine. You're going to be fine. You're not going to get sick. Nobody in your class is going to get this. There's nothing really to be worried about. Keep in mind the year that we've lived in. So there's been a year of struggle to provide reassurances. The norm that we have lived in has been turned upside down. So sometimes over reassuring or using blanket reassurance statements can come across as invalidating, and it can create even more doubt and more fear. It can make kids feel not heard or listened to or validated. So this cycle can lead ultimately to what's known as excessive reassurance seeking, where students, kids, or sons or daughters, our loved ones, just continue to constantly ask if things are okay. Am I okay? Instead, be open, honest, encouraging with your kids. This is clearly the preferred approach. This may include acknowledging risks while emphasizing how precautions reduce those risks and how your kids can feel good about coming back to school, given all of the thought and planning that's gone into protecting them. And keep in mind, school districts have put a lot of thought, a lot of planning, a lot of prep into safely reopening schools, for the students. So we can rest in the expertise of our school professionals, administrators and teachers alike, that they are taking every precaution to make sure that our kids are not only returning to school, but are feeling good about being there, safe about being there, and have the capacity to learn rather than being worried. So if a child continues to seek reassurance, parents can encourage what's called the tolerance of uncertainty, and support kids in using more realistic thinking skills, or to learn to incorporate problem solving skills. What can you do if you get upset in school? What can you do to calm yourself down? Who can you go to? Who's your go-to person in school? Can you go down to the office and talk to the guidance counselor? Can you go down to the office and check in with the secretary? What options do we have here? And then how do we partner with the school? And this is really critical. How do we partner with the school when our kids are are going back into school and potentially dreading it, fearing it, or taking their own stress and worry into the setting. It's really important to involve school as a partner and to embrace them, to support your student's success, your child's success. Parents certainly can empower their kids by supporting them, having tools to identify the problem, helping them kind of think about what it could be like, what it might be like. If you get stressed, if you get worried, what's the plan? What's the escape plan? Very much like how we would plan for a fire drill. It's the same kind of process. Try to pick potential solutions and then try them out, practice, and do them again, and continue to kind of focus on your supports to transition back to school very well. One of the things that I like to do, this is a strategy that I teach a lot of kids. I've worked with a lot of kids over 26 years, and I love using cognitive behavior therapy. This is a cognitive behavior therapy technique that really needs minimal explanation. It says it all. We want to focus on facts, not fear. So the more that anxiety lives and breathes in fear, you want to use the facts to counteract the fear. Fear lives in what's called what if thinking. Facts focus on what is. It's the reality of the moment. It's where we are. It's the present situation that we're in. So, facts I love because they can refute and minimize fears. Facts lead into logical thinking and logical mindset. Fear always goes to the illogical. Facts ultimately lead to rational thinking and rational thoughts, where fear ultimately goes to irrational thinking. So you want to use logical thoughts to counteract illogical thoughts. You want to use rational thinking to counteract irrational thinking. So if you're having a son or daughter, a student that is struggling with fear, they're going to be leaning to illogical thoughts and irrational thoughts. And your weapon would be using facts, using logic, and using rational thinking, and focusing on hearing, listening, and validating them in the moment. Encourage a gradual approach, not necessarily avoiding it. No amount of planning can prevent kids from feeling anxious. Therefore, encouraging tolerance of fear and tolerance of anxiety, meaning that I'm sitting with my worries, I'm sitting with my fears, but I'm not letting them control me. I'm letting them in a little bit. I'm not trying to keep them at bay. I'm also using the facts. I'm using rational and logical thinking to refute fear. Fear naturally encourages a desire to run away. We see that in what's called the fight or flight response. In contrast, facing feared situations promotes and builds resilience, and it reduces anxiety in the long run by helping our kids see that they are capable of navigating these situations. So, while we're trying to be understanding and validating of your child's anxiety, it's also very important to encourage and reinforce to parents to make attempts to support your kids in facing their fears by returning to school, by resuming to school. Most kids have returned back to school with little to no issue. Most kids have been excited to go back to school. They've wanted to go back to school. They're ready to go back to school, and they're engaged and connected. But keep in mind, there is a proportional amount of kids that are struggling more for their fears, their insecurities, their doubts, their worries, their anxiousness, that it's made it hard. Plus, a lot of kids have been offline with direct social contact, throughout this pandemic. So isolation has made it harder for kids to connect. If I'm a quiet, shy kid and I've been isolated and I've been imposed upon with being home and doing hybrid school or virtual learning, it's only driven my isolation further. So it's going to make it harder for me to connect and reconnect back to teachers and also to students. We need to be sensitive to that. We clearly need to praise and reward our kids for being courageous. And I want to praise and reward you as parents for being courageous. And I also want to give props to teachers and administrators in our schools for being courageous. We've all been pretty courageous, during the past year. So students return to school. really praise them for showing courage in the face of fear. Let them know that, you appreciate them pushing forward, that you're proud of them for pushing forward. Being brave adds to courage, and courage adds to resilience. So when you see your child do something that you know is hard for them, or it evokes anxiety, you got to let them know that you noticed it. You have to tell them that you're proud of them, and that you realize that every day they're going to school, they're facing, some of this pandemic fear courageously. And that is definitely worthy of celebration. Model good coping behaviors for kids. It's important for us as parents to set the tone, role model calmness, honesty, and caring. Students will look to parents and to teachers to be positive role models throughout this process. They have been watching us. We've been on stage. They'll continue to watch us. How we handle our fears, how we handle our stress, how we act throughout the day completely impacts how our kids assess, navigate, and deal with their own situations. Tell your kids about your own experience with anxiety and uncertainty. Let them know that this has been a struggle for you too. It makes it real. It is not adding gasoline to the pilot light. Let them know that, by talking about it and opening up about it, it can help them feel less alone. It can help them feel more connected. It can also let them know that some of the things that they're struggling with internally is valid. And it can guide them in a better path to handle situations more productively. In a lot of cases, it's appropriate to be open and honest with our kids developmentally, age developmentally appropriately, so that when they ask tough questions about the future, you can give them an honest answer, helping them understand that the future of school closures, might be a possibility again, based on the mutations of the COVID-19 virus. So, we're praying that we're returning back to a post-COVID life and going to enter a new normal, and that we can embrace that. But, there could be possibilities that based on elevated rates, schools might find themselves in a situation they need to close down again or to go back to a hybrid model. We have to acknowledge that their friends and families and teachers, people who they know and trust might become ill, with COVID. I am here with you tonight, and one of my very dear colleagues and coworkers, husband, tested positive for COVID-19, and she is quarantining right now, waiting for her test. So it can happen. Even with vaccination, it can happen. So being frank about other stressful situations that can occur during the upcoming school year that we haven't quite yet predicted. School professionals and parents can certainly support students and let them know that situations are absolutely upsetting to think about, but that we try to think and take things a day at a time. And we're trying to enjoy each day and celebrate each day. We're not trying to worry about the future way off. We're just trying to get through Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and especially focusing on one day at a time supports minimizing fears and anxiety. So these are challenging discussions that it's not very easy for any of us to have, but helping our kids develop this ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And also, even though they're uncomfortable, to be able to push through that. This is going to build resilience and certainly help them cope with any future stress and anxiety that we experience. And we know that even before COVID, if we're honest, we were all experiencing degrees of stress and angst and anxiety, and COVID just dumped gasoline over everything and just ignited it in a whole different level. So we want to provide clear information, to our kids as early as possible. Anxiety thrives on uncertainty, and the pandemic has been filled with that. So while we're trying to focus on tolerating uncertainty, we want to try to also work together to communicate frequently and clearly about what is planned, what we know, and what we're doing. So schools may have to pivot from time to time. And it's really important that administrators and schools and professionals and staff and educators, really work with keeping the lines of communication open. And the same goes for parents, to keep the lines of communication open with the school. Parents should share the information directly with your kids that school shares with you so that you can help prep them and navigate the situation. It's important to emphasize with your kids that they need to listen and follow the directions that they're providing from their teachers daily. And keep in mind that the teachers may need to be in a situation or find themselves in a situation that they're giving different directions Wednesday than what they were giving Monday and Tuesday because there's been a shift, in some of the pandemic state. So what was okay on Monday might not be okay on Tuesday. So it's super important that we really stress to our kids, you have to listen to your teachers and follow their guidance and follow their direction. It's also important, other important information for families may include changes made at school to navigate safety and student well-being, specific expectations and instructions provided for families and students from school, upcoming plans that might need to be evaluated or adjusted, short-term goals, what we're going to be doing, this week, long-term plans, what our plans are for the month of May. When plans change, regular communication with families will support their own planning and coping with ongoing changes. And it should never be viewed as if plans will change, but it should be more focused on when plans will change. We should assume that we're going to be continuing to make some adjustments and changes for a bit of time. Parents are going to need to support students in closely following the guidelines and rules that school is setting forth, which is promoting safety. So take care of yourself. Know your limits. Our capacity to support others is limited by our own physical and mental well-being. And this has been a toll for all of us. Remember that change and transition is beyond difficult. And you may be struggling to keep yourself healthy throughout all of this. It is important to promote personal self-care in addition to encouraging our kids to take care of themselves. It's important to get outside. It's important to exercise, to make sure that we're eating healthy and well, that we're getting enough sleep, that we're not binge watching or over consuming TV that is escalating our stress and escalating our worry, that we're kind of minimizing how much CNN and how much Fox News and MSNBC that we're taking in. We need to be guarding our mind as well as preserving our social interactions and checking in with our loved ones, making sure that we're having some social connectivity in our life, very critical. So additional tips to support kids. Most importantly, ensure that you're showing yourself compassion, as well as showing compassion to others. You may need to take an extra break or two in your day to regroup or catch your breath. You may be able to, think about your health, your maintenance of health, healthy living. The engagement that you're having in self-care and how you're encouraging your kids to take care of themselves. And don't put off talking to a professional and getting some additional support during this time. We know that people seeking treatment and help is through the roof. Aetna, as an example, Aetna Behavioral Health put out a study saying that they have noticed an uptick of 7,000% utilization of mental health services, televideo services for therapy, psychiatry, psychology in the last year. So if challenges to cope with these changes and demands have led to substantial mental health issues for yourself, then it's definitely time to seek help. Remember, stay focused on the things that are in your control and lean into that, because that is going to be the best remedy to worry and anxiety. So instead of focusing on things that you have no control over, you can focus on the things that you can. So think about this. How can I contribute to the return to in-person learning for my son, my daughter being successful? How can I make this return successful? Well, make a plan. You're focused on what you can control, right? That's what we've been talking about. So you're going to make a plan on the things that you can control. You can use problem-solving steps to make a plan to solve these dilemmas. So identify the problem, returning to in-person learning. It's scary. The next step is to generate ideas to solve an issue. For some kids, getting back into class and being with friends, they're a little bit more emotional guarded. There's been reported observations by teachers and parents that, my son or daughter is not as social as they used to be. They're a little bit more apprehensive. They're having a hard time reconnecting. So support those things, talk about it, set plans in place, try to think of ideas, try to, icebreakers and bridges that teachers and parents can support kids reconnecting with friends and reconnecting with teachers. Identify some of the things that are tough or scary. Support kids writing down pros and cons. Non-scary to scary comparison. Discuss concerns openly, and then identify coping skills and strategies and ways to reconnect, ways to kind of put yourself out there. So pick a few of the ideas that you come up with and implement them. Try them out. Exercise is critical. It's a central pillar to good mental health. The human body is a fantastic machine. Our body has been, exposed to a lot in our lifetime. Our body allows us to think and move and interact with the world around us. It allows us to express ourselves. Exercise releases chemicals in our brain called endorphins, and these endorphins are feel-good chemicals. So by exercising, it triggers more positive feelings in the brain. So the more endorphins we release, the more we're tapping into a natural remedy for depression, a natural reduction in anxiety. You can take a walk. You can practice social distancing when you go for a walk. You can do exercise, yoga, go bike riding, running, skateboarding. You can even play video games that involve physical movement. It's all good. But we need to move. We need to be active. We need to encourage our kids to be active and to remain active. I think it's also very important to try to find fun. Fun is a natural stress reliever. It's an excellent distraction. I love having fun. I love making fun, and I love participating in fun. There's been a lot of 2020 and most of 2021 that hasn't been so much fun. We can still find ways to have fun. Fun helps our brain. When you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode, your emotional brain is completely in charge. It's going to take you down paths that are not going to be good for you. By doing something fun or distracting, you're interrupting that fight, flight, or freeze mode, and it changes you back so that you can begin to think and feel, and then your emotional core comes back online. There's going to be times in your life when you have gone over things in your mind over and over and over again. You kind of obsess on things or dwell on things. It could be happening right now. You have to find ways of interrupting those patterns, and fun is an awesome interrupter to stress. And keep in mind that even though we've been in this experience, we can still laugh while we wear our masks.
Hey, moms and dads and boys and girls. Today's question, what would Disney songs sound like if they were written during this quarantine? Well, mask. Wear a mask. You can craft one really fast. Tie a scarf around your neck. That's what the CDC has asked. Get some cloth, rubber bands, or sew on your own by hand. It will help you be protected so that you won't get infected. So when you're at the store, there's a woman on aisle 4 who starts coughing on the broccoli florets. Go on and keep your distance, and in this key instance, wear a mask. We a mask, wear a mask.
So a little bit of humor never hurt us, and it's good to laugh. It's good to have fun. So we can also use this last year plus to build resilience. Building resilience involves some following key ingredients. It involves us to manage our expectations, to try not to get down on yourself or beat yourself up. It's a difficult time. Everybody is doing the best that they can. Stay realistic with your expectations. Lean into the fact that you're doing good enough, and lean into the fact that right now, more than ever before, we need to support one another. Stay positive. Optimism counts. Optimism matters. Situations are not permanent. Thankfully, this is a horrific situation that we've been in for a very prolonged time, but situations will resolve. We will get through this time. We will get to the other side of this pandemic by focusing on what you can do, what you want to accomplish, and leaning into what you're most thankful for is going to instill optimism. Establish and keep to a routine. Find a routine that works for you. Structure is so important, and our routines have been dramatically impacted. Pace yourself, get outside, take breaks, connect with friends. These are things that you do to try to establish and maintain a routine. Be compassionate to yourself and others. Maintain those personal connections and stay mindful to navigate the moments. Remember, taking things day to day navigates the uncertainty. Mindfulness helps us to focus and hone in on what is happening right now in the very moment. It only takes a few moments every day to truly observe, appreciate, and lean into things that we're thankful and grateful for. Returning to in-person learning builds resilience, and resilience creates the capacity to rebound. So that concludes tonight's workshop and parent presentation. I just want to thank everybody for attending. It is a team effort to navigate the return to school successfully. I hope tonight everyone has been exposed to some tools and skills that can continue to support student success. Amy, I turn it back to you and just thank you for the opportunity.
Tori, we want to thank you. You've contributed so much to Pendelco this year by doing these parent series, and we thank you very much. And the information's invaluable, and we just hope that next year brings a different year, but all these things that you've shared can carry through whether we're in normalcy or not. So Tori, thank you again for being willing to share all that you have with us. It's been great. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Up there you are.